So when you download the 2D platformer puzzle kit and you import the packages, you should have all this stuff at the bottom of your screen. And you should have the demo levels too that I used within the video. So I'm going to show you guys how to use this asset and how to maximize your game's uniqueness and potential. So we're going to start by making a new scene. And using just things included in the package, we're going to make a level from scratch really fast and really easily. So we can go into the prefabs folder, and here you'll find all the different things that we can use to drop in. So we're going to start off with a background. So when we drop in a background, you can make your own texture and just easily drag and drop it onto here. Just select any PNG will work. So we can use the default particle for, say, we want to have like, a black and white dot background. You can use any texture you want though. I have two on here that you're welcome to use for your projects. So I have this like electro looking grid that's tileable, and then I have a laser array that's also tileable. So I'm going to use the default particles, I guess, just for the heck of it. I'm going to use the electro just so it doesn't take up too much of the screen, doesn't look too confusing on the video. So now we can drag and drop a player in, and already if we drag and drop a player in, we have someone that we can control and move and use. So just to give him something to stand on, we're going to drag and drop a platform in. We're going to select the tool up here to the right. The hotkey is E, I believe. Now we can manipulate our sprites however we want to. So I'm just going to make a quick floor for our character. So when we press play, already just from dragging and dropping our character in, we already have a playable game. So spaces jump, and you can move with left and right, and there are other controls too. So a little control I didn't show in the actual demo is the flip gravity and the restart. Those are two controls I didn't show. So flip gravity, if you press Q and you have flip gravity enabled over here, our character will actually switch, and he makes a noise too, because you can set noises that you want the character to play. Turn those on right now. There you go, just a noise. Okay, so that's how you make your player flip the gravity. You can choose any key you want. So to go through each thing, the horizontal axis name is our input menu. You just simply go to input and project settings, input. And here you'll find all your different axes. You can make any amount of axes you want and just import them to the character. So you can have as many keys or like Xbox controllers or whatever you want to control as many players as you want on the screen. There's no limit to the amount of characters you can have on the screen at once. You can make like a 10-player puzzle game if you want. So that's really a big thing about this, is that there's a lot of freedom. So I have two axes here. I have horizontal 1, which is controlled with A and D, and I have horizontal 2, which is controlled with the left and right arrow key. So using that, I can have 2 players in the game. If you want more, you can just make more axes. You can just use Unity's default and just like copy them. So now we can take our player here and we can actually put a second one in. So by pressing Control D, we could duplicate him and we can drag him off. And now, at the moment, they have the same controls, right? So if you wanted a game where you control 2 players at once and you have to make them like desync and do whatever you want, that's just an idea. You can easily implement that. All you have to do is put in the players. So now we can make him do his own thing. So we're going to label his axis to horizontal 2, because if we go to our project setting input, horizontal 2 is the one that has left and right arrow keys as a default. Now that he's on horizontal 2, now he's on horizontal 2, we can move with the A and D keys, like this, and we can move with the left and right keys. And they're 2 separate characters now. You can give them different sprites if you want, just by changing their graphic, and you can give them animations just by animating their graphic. Whatever you want, there is really no limit with this. And you can change his jump now. So we're going to make his jump be return, which is the enter key. And that should give us 2 characters, both separate in movement, that can be played on one computer. So you can make multiplayer games, bring them to your friend's house, sell them, whatever you want to do with them. So to go through some keys here, the restart key, when you press R, actually just reloads the current scene. Now I didn't save this scene, so if I press R, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I might have not restarting. could be because there's two characters with the R key enabled, but it's because we're not in a scene. We're getting an error there. So you have to make sure before you use the restart key, you have to make sure that you actually put your scenes into your build settings, and then you can use that feature. So the restart key is for if like your character gets stuck in your game, and like somebody gets stuck and they can't get out, and the only other option is to restart the level. It just simply reloads the scene back to when you started the scene up. So that's how that works. Flip gravity is cool. I've seen games like this before where you flip gravity. So for both characters, it's currently Q, so they both should flip. But you can change what it is for the other character if you want. And you can just flip the gravity for people by choice. There's also the let me change this for him. It's not the same thing. I'll make it be, I don't know, the asterisk for him. Which I wonder if that counts as 8. If you actually have to do Shift 8. Oh, it's the asterisk on the keypad, maybe? No. I'm not sure with that. We'll make it be something we know works. We'll make it be the P key. How about that? It's kind of close to the right side of the keyboard. There you go. Now that he has a different button, his gravity flip can be individual. So let's go through each property of the character. So each puzzler has different movement settings. So his max speed is the highest speed that your character will go. He does accelerate a little bit reaching that speed, as you see. There's like a smooth transition to it and a smooth stop to it. And that makes them look a lot nicer. But the max speed is that top speed that he reaches, and he doesn't go any higher than that. So by default it's 3, but you can make it whatever you want depending on your game. Your jump force is the amount of height you jump. It's just a one force that's applied once. You can walk off platforms and then jump. Once you hit the ground, your jumps reset. So that allows a lot of mobility and good platforming. And you can set your max jumps to whatever you want it to be. So by making it 2, I can now jump twice before hitting the ground, and now I can jump no more until I hit the ground again. I can jump again. So you can get a double jump in, you can get a quadruple jump, you can have like 1,000 jumps if you want. It's really up to you. Gravity flipped is if you want to make it so their gravity is defaultly flipped. A good idea for this is if you wanted to make a game where 2 characters walk on like the same path almost, like this, but they have like different gravities. Up to you once again. The gravity flip will defaultly flip their gravity, and then you can enable or disable gravity change by turning that off now. Our character cannot flip gravity. The other one still can though, because we didn't change that setting for him. That's cool too. You can have 2 different characters with 2 different abilities. Smooth gravity change is pretty cool. Let me give him gravity change back though. So by turning off smooth gravity change, defaultly it's on, as you saw before, but by turning it off, you just instantly change your gravity. It's like very abrupt, but that can like allow for like really good dodging and movement. Whereas when it's on, it's a little more dramatic. Like once you switch it, you go past a little bit. See, like that. So those are the real differences between smooth and regular. So now you can actually drag and drop sounds in. So you have your hit object sound, which is played when you hit the ground or any other object, like a little bump sound. Your jump sound is played when you jump, and your switch gravity sound is played when you switch the gravity. There's a simple like volume slider here. The ground layer here is for anything that your player can jump on. So anything you want your player to be able to regain his jumps on, you just have to put on the ground layer. So by default, platforms are on the ground layer, and so are like, you know, cubes and a lot of other objects that your player could possibly land on and need to jump off of. So those are the basic controls for the player. So now we're gonna drop in a crate. So a crate is a simple physics object, and you can move it around. A pretty good influence on it. But the cool thing about crates is that they can be used with buttons, and buttons have a lot to them. So let's get into buttons now. So we put in a button simply like that, and you put a crate over it. By default, the button will turn on when the crate's on it, and will turn off when the crate's off it. So how buttons work, you use this button script here. So the first setting we can change is the affected doors, which I guess I'll get into doors real quick. If I drop in a door right here, our door is here, our button is here. I can click on my door, and I can drag it onto my button's affected door array. An array is a list for anyone who isn't familiar with programming words. So when I put the button onto, when I put the crate onto our button, it unlocks the door. So before, I can't go through it, and then after I can go through it. So I'll show you before real quick. And the button makes a noise every time something touches it too. You can disable that if you think it's annoying, or you can enable it if you like it. And if you want it to be just when a door opens or closes instead of like when something touches the button, there's actually sound on the door that you can use for that. So you can easily just disable sound by checking this off. So you can have more than one affected door by one button. You can have like 2 doors per se. You just type in 2, press enter, put in another door wherever you want it to be. Maybe I'll put one right there. And now you can actually click on your button, take your second door, and drag it as the second element. And you can have as many elements as you want. So you can have as many doors affected by one button. Just as easy as that. So now say you want to make a new object that the door can be enabled by. So like first say we can actually drag and drop, we'll go into my sprites, see what I have here, a square in, I guess. We'll make like a little tiny cube like this. And we can give it a physics 2D box collider and a physics 2D rigid body. And if as long as we put it on the ground layer, we can jump when we hit it. But as long as we tag it with an object, right? When we drop it, when it hits the button, it will enable it. So those are what the button tags are. And you can actually make as many tags as you want. Whatever tag you make, you just have to simply go to your buttons and set what affects it. So if you want another tag that can enable, say you have like enemies, you want enemies to be able to enable buttons and they have their own tag, you can just simply type in like enemies there and they will be able to enable buttons. So that's really expansive. You can, without even having to code, you can just expand your game based on like dragging and dropping other assets or other enemies into the game. And then we have the different types of buttons. So all this is more of like the setup, so it's under the setup section, and you can like minimize these too if they're taking up a lot of space. But the button types is actually pretty cool. So enable while on is the default type of button, which means when something's touching it, it's on, when something's not touching it, it's off. But you can also do enable permanently, which means that when I drop something onto the button and I take it off, it's now enabled for the rest of the time that the button's in the scene. So this is like if you want to make like a big goal button or something where you touch it and just completely permanently unlocks a door. That's how you would do it. And actually, I didn't talk about the background a lot, so let me just go do that real quick. When you drag and drop a background in, you can make it move diagonally, and you can change the speed at which it moves. By doing move diagonally, it now moves up at an angle, and we can set the speed to like whatever we want it to be. If we want it to move really fast, you can set it to a higher speed. I think that's a little distracting though. This speed, like the default speed, is pretty relaxing. Like you kind of forget it's there, but it's up to you. It's entirely customizable. You choose. And the background will never actually fall off. You don't have to worry about that because after it moves 1 unit of speed, it just resets. Like once it moves 1 tileable texture over, it just resets. So as long as your texture is tileable and you scale it properly, then it will work fine. So those are the backgrounds. Let me finish the buttons up. Now there's enable switch, which is pretty cool too. I can't really think of a way to use this, but I'm sure there's a way. So I put it in there. It's kind of like enable permanently where you touch it and then it turns on. But at the same time, you can just disable it by touching it again. And anything that you have listed as able to enable it, and hit that too. And it will just, do its thing. So those are buttons. Actually, real quick, there are also color settings you can set. So you can change the disabled color to whatever you want it to be, and your enabled color to whatever you want it to be. So let's make, I don't know, disabled be like when the button's disabled, it's like a low alpha blue. Now when you get into the game, our button's like a low alpha blue, and then when it's enabled, it's a whatever other color you set. It's easy as that. So those are buttons, and you can have as many as you want, as many different types as you want. Define your game as you want. These are just tools that you could use, and as easy as that. Let's go on to a new prefab. So I guess we'll cover gravity fields. I'll just start to make a little level here. Normally I would use control to tile my stuff. Like I'd put something in and I'd tile it. They're all equidistant. But just for this tutorial's sake, I'm going to make it a little bit sloppy. So So this will be our roof, I guess. There we go. So we're like in this little box, and we have to push this crate onto that button to get out. And now once we're out, I'll put a gravity flip right over here. So gravity flip, as you probably saw in the video, when you touch it, it will flip your character's gravity, and when you get off of it, it will unflip their gravity. Which I actually forgot a really big detail here. Forgot to do the camera follow. So when you make a new scene, you can just delete the main camera and drop in my main camera that I made, and you can just set this however you want it. So player 1 would be player 1, obviously. So like wherever player 1 is, here he is. That's player. So just drag player 1 or puzzler into wherever player 1 goes. Then your other puzzler or player, you just drag onto player 2. And now the camera will automatically scale according to the two people, and will always be in the center. And if you go far apart from each other, it will actually scale out, like that. So it's a pretty smooth camera. Oh, I see. I have something on. Okay, so gravity fields. Anyways, so you can click on your gravity field, and there are a bunch of options on it. Not really, just flip player and flip objects. So flip player simply flips any player that touches the gravity field, and flip objects flips any objects that touches the gravity field. If you have both of them enabled, it will flip both players and objects. If you only have one enabled, it will flip only the thing you have enabled, and if you have none of them enabled, then it's completely useless. And I don't know why you would do that. So I'm gonna put a box up here, just for the heck of it. A box right over here. So by putting this here, like this, I wanted to bring that box down. Ooh, I got a good boost from that. So if I wanted to bring this box down, I just, push it off and it falls through and there's no problem. But I can't go through because the gravity field is just going to keep like enabling and disabling my gravity accordingly. So if I wanted to make it so the box also couldn't go through, I could turn on flip objects. And now anything tagged with object will also be flipped in the gravity field. So if I push off this box, see, you can't make it through because it keeps changing its gravity. So that's a good use for gravity fields. They can really like change your puzzles up, make them interesting. So for example, if I wanted to make it so like, say over, I don't know, over here, extend this out. I can make it so like maybe over here, there's something here that only flips objects. And I can make that defined by just recoloring it. So red means only flips objects, right? And now I can put a platform over here, right? I can put this maybe a little bit higher up, like that. And I can put the object that we're trying to get to maybe over, I don't know, over here. And say we're trying to get to that button, okay? And then we'll make this button unlock the final door, which will go to the end of the level. So like this for say. And then we'll put the end goal here. We'll just put a door on for now. So if I want to make this button over here affect that door that I just made, I just drag door 2 onto the affected doors, which I forgot to open that up. One sec. So make sure you open your affected doors, set it to the amount of doors you want to affect, and then drag the door onto it. And now that door is hooked up. So I can make it so this only flips objects, and I can make it so this one only flips players. And I guess a use for it could be like you jump up here, and then you have to get, you have to get an object onto that button to hold down this button, because I'll make this button be enable permanently, or enable while on, my bad. So now you need a crate to hold down that button. That way, I mean, I guess you can have your other player go here, but you're going to need 2 people to stand on the goal at once to win. So even if he's in here, there's nothing you could do. So you have to somehow get a crate onto this button, and then the best way to do that would be you go over here and then just like push this off, and then let the gravity field carry it over across, and then you can put it onto the button. And now you can also get through because the door is permanently held open. And instead of having to go all the way back and around because this gravity field only affects objects, you can just jump through it, no problem. So now you both get to the goal. So I'll put the goal in here, and I'll go through how to use the goal. Because this is getting long, and anyone who wants to learn from this video probably doesn't want to spend a lot of time listening to me talk. So the goal, a few options here. I'll go through each one though, don't worry. The players needed is the amount of players that need to be standing on it for it to count as winning the level and move on to the next level. So by default it's 1, because by default it's a 1-player game, but you can put as many players in and give them like different colored graphics or whatever you want to differentiate each player. I'll make this one like black or something. Yeah, why not? So you can set how many players are needed to stand on it at once to win the level. The camera zoom out is the camera size at which it zooms out. It's I don't want to say radius, but it's half of the width. So say this width is 5, 20 would zoom out, so it's 20 and 20, making like a 40 span across. And you can set that to whatever you want. That's just this is the transition. So whenever you get the goal, it like zooms out and makes a noise or whatever. And the zoom speed is the speed it zooms out, and then it zooms in at double that speed to give like a cool and zoom in effect, and then it loads the next level. That's where the scene to load comes in. You just type in the scene to load, which is an index in our build settings. So if you go to your build settings, if we want to load this level, we'd put a 1. If we want to load this level, we put a 0, and so on. So that's how the goal works. And if you want to use a sound when you touch it, you just press use sound, much like the other objects, and just choose a sound. Then you can set your volume right here on the slider. So we actually have a complete level now. Let me just set this goal to 2 people. And I'll give you a quick demo of what we created. And without me talking and explaining stuff, I could have created this much faster and much nicer. So if we jump over here, we have to get our box. So we just push it across, and it kind of like flows onto it because it's a gravity field. Almost like, like floating water, kind of. So now we press the button's held down, we can both exit the level. And while he's on it, it doesn't matter until I get on it too. And now we're both on it, and now the level's over, and it loads the first level because I had set to load scene 0, so this is like the first level in the demo. You guys probably remember it if you watched the initial demo. So that's how to use the 2D platformer puzzle pack. If you haven't purchased it yet, definitely give it a thought, because I'd like to see some puzzle games that you guys can make with this. It should be pretty easy. I plan on updating it a lot too, adding anything you guys request. So by making the purchase, not only are you getting all the features, but you're also getting my full support, and I will listen to anything you say. Nothing's too hard for me to program. I can integrate, multiplayer, all sorts of things in the future. So when I say multiplayer, I mean online multiplayer. You name it, I'll help you out, work together. So give it a like. If you really like it, purchase it, and that's about it. So thanks for watching. I hope that you know what to do now, and you have a good reference. If I forgot to cover something, let me know. I'll make another video. Or if you want me to go more in depth with something, or like maybe how to modify some things and like add in extra features, let me know. I'll do whatever you guys ask. Just shout out. All right. Thanks for watching.